The lease papers are sitting on the table, 48 months, $847 a month. The salesman slid them across like they were nothing. Like $40,000 over 4 years is just a rounding error. And here's the thing, you can technically afford it. The payment clears. The bank approved it. So you sign. What you don't calculate in that moment, when an almost nobody does, is what that decision costs you. Twice. Once when you pay it. Again, when you realize what that money never became. That car you're financing isn't just a car. It's the physical proof that identity spending has replaced wealth building in America. And it's not just cars. It's the apartment that's $600 a month more than you need. Because the zip code matters to you. It's the wardrobe that signals success you haven't actually achieved yet. It's the watch, the vacation on credit, the renovation that turned a livable kitchen into a showpiece nobody uses. The Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances found that the median American household between ages 35 and 44, peak earning years, supposed prime accumulation period, holds just $45,000 in retirement assets, not net worth. Retirement assets, the number that's supposed to be your future, $45,000. Meanwhile, the average new vehicle transaction price in the U.S. hit over $48,000 in 2023, according to Kelley Blue Book data. Let that sit for a second. The typical American in their late 30s or early 40s is financing a vehicle worth more than their entire retirement account. That's not a budgeting problem. That's a values inversion. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Expenditure Survey consistently shows that American households in the $60,000 to $90,000 income range spend more annually on transportation than they contribute to retirement accounts. The car payment beats the 401k every month across millions of households. But transportation is just the most visible symptom. The Federal Reserve's data shows that 37% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing or selling something. At the same time, the personal luxury goods market in the U.S., things like designer clothing, premium electronics, upscale dining, generates hundreds of billions in annual revenue. People who can't absorb a $400 shock are financing $400 shoes. What's happening here isn't irrational exactly. It's the result of an economy specifically engineered to make status spending feel like survival and make investing feel like sacrifice. The problem isn't that people are stupid. The problem is that they're spending against a future self they can't see to impress a social circle that will forget the purchase within a week, using debt that charges them interest while their retirement account charges them nothing to let it grow. By the time most people realize the math, they've already lost the compounding years that mattered most. There's a 36-year-old in Charlotte, let's call him Derek, who makes $78,000 a year as a project manager. He contributes 4% to his 401k to capture his employer match, which feels responsible. His apartment runs $1,850 a month in a neighborhood he couldn't have afforded at 28 and wanted badly enough at 33 that he justified the number. He drives a 2022 pickup he's financing at $710 a month. His wardrobe is heavy with brands. His credit card carries a $6,400 balance he's been about to pay off for 14 months. Derek isn't broke. He has a good job, a credit score in the high 600s, and a lifestyle that photographs well. He also has $31,000 in retirement savings at 36, a savings rate under 5%, and roughly $380 in discretionary cash left after fixed expenses each month. Derek doesn't think he has a problem. He thinks he's building his life. What he's actually building is a trap. Failure point 1, the identity premium. Most lifestyle inflation isn't random. It's targeted. People pay specifically for things that signal a version of themselves they want to project or believe they're entitled to after working hard. The apartment in the better zip code, the car with the badge, the restaurant where you're seen, Each of these comes with what you could call an identity premium, the gap between the functional cost of the thing and the actual price paid. A reliable 2019 Honda Civic costs roughly $14,000. A new Audi A4 costs $44,000. The transportation function is nearly identical. The $30,000 gap is entirely identity premium. Financed over 60 months, that premium runs about $500 a month, $6,000 a year, that could instead be compounding in a brokerage account. Failure. Point 2. The comparison anchor shifts. Constantly social comparison isn't static. When Derek got his first apartment at 24, a clean one-bedroom felt like winning. By 32, his reference group had shifted, colleagues buying houses, Instagram feeds full of renovated kitchens and weekend trips, and suddenly the baseline for enough had moved entirely. This isn't weakness, it's how social cognition works. But it means that income increases almost never translate into savings increases, they translate into lifestyle increases. That matched the new reference group. The data reflects this perfectly. The savings rate for Americans earning $75,000 to $100,000 annually is barely higher than for those earning $40,000 to $60,000. More income. Same savings rate, because the spending ceiling rises with the income floor. Failure point 3, the debt normalization loop. At some point, for Derek it was around 29, carrying a credit card balance stopped feeling like a warning sign and started feeling like normal. The minimum payment clears. Life continues. The interest compounding on that $6,400 balance at 22%. APR costs him roughly $1,400 annually in pure interest. That's not paying for anything. That's the price of having bought something he's already forgotten, charged to a future version of himself who has to deal with it. What makes this particularly damaging isn't the interest cost in isolation. It's that debt payments occupy income that can't be invested. Every dollar servicing ego-driven debt is a dollar not compounding for retirement. Failure. Point 4. The "I'll catch up later" assumption. Derek tells himself and genuinely believes that his 40s will be the decade he gets serious about saving. The kids will be older, the truck will be paid off, the promotion will come. He'll ramp up then. This assumption contains multiple compounding errors. First, expenses in the 40s rarely decrease. They typically increase with children, aging parents, and healthcare costs. Second, the compounding math doesn't offer extensions. A dollar invested at 36 has roughly 29 years to grow before a 65-year-old retirement. A dollar invested at 46 has 19. The 10-year delay doesn't cost 10 years of growth. At 7% returns, it costs about 55% of the final value. That $400 monthly contribution at 36, left alone for 29 years, becomes roughly $390,000. At 46, same contribution for 19 years, about $162,000. Same person, same income, different decade, $228,000 difference. Failure. Point 5. Confusing cash flow for wealth. The most dangerous financial position in America is making good money and feeling financially fine while building almost no net worth. Derek's cash flow works. The payment's clear. He's not in crisis. This creates a false signal, a sense of stability that masks the absence of actual wealth accumulation. Net worth and monthly cash flow are not the same thing. You can have strong cash flow and negative net worth trajectory simultaneously. Millions of Americans do. The feeling of financial okayness is often the exact thing preventing financial change. What separates the people who actually build wealth from those who arrive at 55 with a lifestyle and a retirement account that don't match? Almost universally, it's not income. It's the decision made at some specific point to treat the future self as a real person whose interests matter right now, not later. Here's the counterintuitive part. The solution isn't deprivation, it's sequencing. The people who retire with $800,000 instead of $80,000 on similar incomes didn't live worse lives in their 30s and 40s. They funded the future first and built the lifestyle around what remained. The people who arrive at retirement broke didn't necessarily live better lives. They just spent in the wrong order, building lifestyle first and hoping savings would follow. Savings don't follow, they have to lead. If you're in your 20s, you have something worth more than a six-figure salary right now. Time, the single highest leverage move available to you, is automating a 10 to 15% contribution before you build expensive habits around your full paycheck. Not after the apartment, not after the car, before. This week, specifically, log into your 401k or open a Roth IRA if you don't have one. Set your contribution to at least enough to capture your full employer match, and then schedule an automatic 1% increase every 6 months until you hit 15%. It takes about 20 minutes. The reason most people don't do it isn't complexity. It's that the future self doesn't feel urgent. Make it automatic. So the decision only has to happen once. Also, and this is blunt, the vehicle you drive in your 20s is one of the most financially consequential decisions you'll make, and almost nobody treats it that way. A reliable used car, purchased outright or with minimal financing, frees up $400 to $700 per month that can compound for 40 years. That's not a small thing. That's potentially the difference between retiring at 62 and retiring at 68. If you're in your 30s or 40s, the identity spending habits are probably established by now. The question isn't whether to eliminate them, it's whether each one is actually paying what you think it's paying in terms of life satisfaction. Here's an exercise worth doing this week. Pull your last 3 months of credit card and bank statements and categorize every non-essential expense as either I actively enjoyed this or I just kind of bought it. Most people discover that 30 to 40% of their discretionary spending lands in the second category. The gym membership barely used, the subscriptions forgotten, the meals ordered because cooking felt like effort that night. Redirecting even half of the passive spending into a taxable brokerage account automatically changes the math substantially. Someone in their late 30s who frees up $400 a month through this audit and invests it in a low-cost index fund has roughly $320,000 at 65 at 7% returns. That's not retirement savings. That's additional retirement savings stacked on top of whatever else is growing. Also worth confronting directly. If you're carrying consumer debt above 8% interest, paying that down is the equivalent of a guaranteed 8 to 22% return, depending on the rate. There is no investment reliably offering that. The debt is the first investment to make. If you're 50 or older, the catch-up contribution limit for 401k plans allows an additional $7,500 annually once you turn 50. That's $7,500 the IRS specifically created for this situation. Use it. If you're not maximizing that, you're leaving tax advantage space on the table. More importantly, delaying Social Security from 62 to 70 increases your monthly benefit by roughly 76%. That's not a small optimization. For someone expecting $1,600 a month at 62, waiting to 70 produces roughly $2,800 a month. For life, inflation adjusted. If you're healthy and have any other income bridge, the math on delayed claiming is almost always favorable. Downsizing housing before retirement, not during, is chronically underutilized. The transaction costs and lifestyle disruption are lower while you're still working and have flexibility. Moving from a $2,200 a month situation to a $1,400 a month situation 8 years before retirement frees up roughly $76,000 that can compound meaningfully. One more thing, and this applies regardless of age. The vehicle you drive right now is probably costing you more than you think in total. payment, insurance, depreciation, maintenance. Run the actual number. A lot of people discover they're spending $12,000 to $16,000 annually on a depreciating asset. That could be replaced with something costing half that. And the freed up cash would genuinely alter their retirement picture. Here's the real question underneath all of this: who are you spending the money to impress? And are they going to be at your retirement party when the account runs out?